Good afternoon, everyone. So we'll continue the introduction to C#, and we were in covering different kind of data types. Till where we have covered object. So basically we have covered all the different type of data types, but we were covering it one by one, and then once we complete that, I think so, we were discussing about variable assignments and all those things, right? So yeah, how to use variables, different kind of variables, and straight away let's go to the who has by hearted it and come. As I told, right, you need to by heart it by Monday. Anyone in the team?
I didn't buy that, but I remember. In short, byte, float, decimal, date and time span, string, object.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Good. No. So there is no use if we are going like this, okay? Because few things we need to by heart, and data type is one of them. And there are few more syntax. If you want to be a good developer, and if you are aspiring to be a good developer, you need to by heart it. Otherwise, everybody is working in some department or the other. You will be there. Either take it up seriously, otherwise there's no point of we have, because for this usually I never used to design a syllabus, and now we have done all those things, that what and all will be taught to you. But if there is no outcome, if there is no interest shown from your side, then it will be difficult for me also to do hard work for you guys. I'm telling again, tomorrow the same thing I'll ask. Everybody, you should close your eyes, and how we used to tell different tables, 2, 4, 6, 8, whatever. Same fluency, you should tell me the data types. Okay, and they don't tell into integer. Okay, because what it has a specific name. I didn't ask you a full name or something. Whatever it is, we have to talk in the same terms. Okay, understood. Now let me open Visual Studio also, because few things will be. Anybody got time to practice some of the variables, assignment, reassignment, or manipulations of no? You should start doing it, because programming language is more about practice. More you get familiar with. I know, in office time, hardly you will not get time, or if you get also, probably, because there are so many other diversions that you might not be able to concentrate on this. But if you want to learn, there was a good weekend, 2 days time. If you would have given half an hour, 45 minutes also, it was more than enough. So let's, try to focus on that as well. Every week, at least 1 to 2 hours you should spend with the system. Otherwise, it will be I'll tell at the time when I'm telling, you all will nod your head, because you understand what I'm telling. But after some that, if you don't practice, you'll forget about it. Okay. So any doubts on the data types? No. Okay. See, now it depends on the project, but like you can say int is one, right? Because most of the developers don't want to play either with short or with the long. Because most of the ranges comes between int, easy to type, easy to remember, and it is kind of safe. If the numbers are small, also fine. Because usually I also not write short, so we don't use that much. But sometimes if your project is critical of memory, right? Because where you are deploying, like nowadays we are doing programming, like one of our project itself is going into micro architecture. That means there will be small pods with a very minimal. So based on increment of load, like her project also, Madhura's project also is like that, wherein we don't have a bigger resource like a complete server only for our project. So when the load increases, what happens is, your number of small PCs will increase automatically. When the load decreases, it will get automatically destroyed. So that kind of architecture, memory utilization is very critical. So if you can reduce your memory footprint, so that time you have to be very critical. What is your data range? If you are only using 1 to 1000 or 10,000, it's better we use short instead of int. Because 32-bit we don't need that much. So your memory requirement and memory processing will be much faster. Okay? Even though you are adding the same two numbers, but when you are adding two int, the resultant will be little slower. You might not notice because it might be in picoseconds or something, like, but there will be a difference. And when you add up everything, like when you have a complete application written, it will start making a huge difference in milliseconds, right? And execution in millisecond difference is big number because you don't do only one execution. There will be a continuous execution happening. So overall you will see a performance difference. And everybody is working in a very time critical project. So you will know, I think so Max Command also is implementing something similar what we are doing for Max Survey, right? So that kind of differences will reflect when we are doing operations where execution power, like your memory is reduced, your processing capability is reduced, then those things you have to. Otherwise, if you are doing it for just for a general purpose computer, it doesn't make much difference.
So that time we can use it.
Yes, if memory, like if your resource is not a problem, but if resource is a problem, right? If you have a micro architecture, you should try to analyze it. It's not like you have to use sort, but if your number range is not that high, use sort. Or if it is, see, long, there is a specific use case when int cannot handle that length. So it is easy to bifurcate. But usually when the number is small or of type 32-bit, you tend to use 32-bit, even though you will never reach to a range of 32-bit. Okay, so that time people you tend to not use sort. Okay, same thing with double and decimal also, it's the same thing, right? But there people use more of double than float than any one of these things. So float takes care of most of the numbers because hardly until unless we are using very scientific, high scientific data, we will not get get to use double or decimal.
If you have any decimal values, then you have to use the decimal.
Yes.
We can use this also int. Right?
That's what I'm saying. Nobody uses decimal, that much. Mostly int will take care of rest of the things, and here float. So int and float will be most used in terms of data like integer and floating point numbers. Okay, char you will hardly use, because most of the work is done by string. Okay. Now, Boolean is something which is used. Date time is very frequently used, most of the programming. Time span is again little less. Object is used widely, but you should not be using objects. Most of the projects, what we are doing now, you are from Java. So you don't compare your object to our object. Okay, it is little different because there's something called type safety in C#, right? Because it is a strict type language wherein data type should be known, and we put a lot of emphasis on knowing the data type, right? That whether it is int, then you have to declare int. It's not like you put var and you put everything and compiler will get to know, or at runtime it will be identified what kind of data it is. Even though we have a var keyword, I have told earlier also, what we do is we have to do an assignment of data to know the data type exactly at compile time only. We don't leave anything for runtime. And when we have assigned data, it is not like now you can put any other kind of data into that. It will start giving you error. So once you assign data, it takes the same data type and then you cannot change it. So it is as good as you are defining the data type. The only thing is ease of writing the data type. Because when you go more complex programming, we have complex user defined data types, right? If you, like in your Nova projects also, you will have a lot of classes used as data types. Like you can call it objects, or you can call it models, or whatever it is. Basically it is data type, complex kind of user defined data type, which is not primitive. Primitive is like what comes with the programming language. Then we create, using those data types, we create more complex data types or hybrid data types, and then sometimes we call it model, sometimes we call something else, but it is more complex data types. At that point of time, a name will be very big because we purposefully give bigger names to identify between different variables there, or different classes. Then writing var becomes little easier for developers. But apart from that, here we try to identify. That's why I told you, using object we have to be very careful in .NET, because our purpose is what? Our purpose is to identify exact data types. But when you put object, it can contain any known data type in C#. So we should avoid and use some other kind of data types like list, or that kind of complex data types. That we'll discuss it at the end of this complete course. So you will get to know. It's not like we are not going to cover it. But as of now, you don't know enough about those data types. Okay, so we are not discussing it. But there are more complex data types coming that we will be discussing once you cover classes and all those things. Then you will also understand these things much better. Okay, so now that day we were discussing about variable, assignments and operations. To continue this knowledge, we need to know what more we can do with data types, right? So these things till here we have covered. Now we have already dealt with data type integer. Now same thing will continue if you have decimal or something else, but with little difference. I'll tell you what is the difference. Now here we have different kind of floating numbers except long, right? Long is a integer type. Now you see there is a shortcut written here, MDFL. You have to understand, because what kind of data type it is. This will, because a 14.5 can be a decimal double or a floating number, right? Because this number is very small, so it can fit into any three without problem. But how compiler will understand whether it is a decimal or a double or a float? So we use this. For long, usually we don't use these kind of things. Just assign the data. Okay. So here you see, var. Again, var basically we use for variable. It is a short form for, if you are declaring any variable, we use keyword var. This is for earlier programming language like JavaScript uses var, right? Yeah. So, like till TypeScript came, I think the TypeScript also supports var. No.
Supports var, but
Yeah. But in JavaScript, we used to, like any declaration, any data type, we used to only write var. Okay. And here, see, we have not declared any variable type. But when we say 14.5 only, now compiler is confused because 14.5 can be considered as a decimal, floating point number, or a double. So if we put m, otherwise I'll just write it here once again. Let me get my cursor back. Okay, so let me write var my mail equals 14.5. Okay, now any type it is showing here double, right? Now compiler will choose automatically this thing. But if you write m here, right? Now you see decimal is of what type? You are getting it? Before it was showing double. Now I put f now float. You are getting it? So basically, based on this extension, we are able to determine what kind of data type we are putting in. Now coming back here. So if you have a floating point number and if you are not assigning it properly, for example, I'm getting here. Here. Float. Now this will give an error. So you have to, because again we don't know this 14.5 is of what type. In var, by default it took decimal. Double. It was double or decimal? Double. Right? Because what is the largest number? It took that so that there is no confusion. Right? It will definitely able to hold the data what we have written.
if we don't write float, just we declare like that.
It will give error. Because by default, any decimal number will get as double.
It is only for the decimal.
Because decimal, you have different ways of, see now when you are putting some number, right, then you have to do here, and there is something called widening and narrowing. Okay, those things we'll cover it little later, but it especially for, and again for long the same thing will happen, right? So you have to specifically mention this is a long, especially when you have a input fixed, like you have a kind of constant assigned. If it is a variable, then it's not a problem, because then they'll check variable type to variable type. So suppose if you have a double in one side and you have a float one side, if you are assigning float to double, it will not ask questions. But you cannot assign double to float. Why? Because you can convert a smaller number to bigger number, but you can never compare a bigger. So suppose now you can put this conference room in the office. Can you put this office in a conference room? No. It is something similar. That's why when you put a floating point number, by default it takes the biggest number available, which container. But when we specifically say no, this number is a smaller one, floating point, then it will take. But if it is a variable containing a floating point number, then it will only check, because this number already is holding the data, this variable, It will only check the compatibility between these two variable types. If both are float, no problem. If one is decimal or double, no problem. Because what float can hold, these guys can also hold. But it cannot be ulta. You cannot put a double into a float, because you will lose some data. There will be a warning. There might be an error saying that. So that's what the concept of whiting and narrowing will get to know. Okay. So this is what we were discussing. When we are dealing with floating point numbers, we have to specifically mention. Okay, and especially when we are dealing with constants, means we are providing the number. Here 14.5 is a constant. That's why we have to specify. But if 14.5 is a number input from a console, and then we are assigning from one decimal to another one, it will not ask. Why? Because then it will only check compatibility of two variable types. If both are decimal, no problem. If this particular variable is holding the data, this can also hold, right? So you have to be little careful of those things. But again, these things will not create that much of problem. And so we start using it, you will get to know. Okay. Now, strings and escape character. Now, can someone tell me what is a string? Yeah. So you can call it as a container which contains characters, set of characters, or collection of characters are called, or finite collection of characters is called a string. So it is explained in various ways. Okay. So first we will try to understand how this whole thing works. We have already discussed in brief when we were discussing on how a value type and reference type works, right? So can someone tell me? Yes. What is value type and what is reference type?
For value type, we will assign definite value should be there. For reference type, we will store in another memory location. We will take the address of that memory location.
Very good. So this was just to refresh everyone that how value type and reference type works. Value type is like if your variable is pointing to a memory, that memory is directly holding the exact value what we are trying to access. Whereas reference type, the length of the value varies depending upon case to case. So usually only the reference where the variable is stored is kept into the variable name instead of keeping the exact value. So string is one of the mostly used reference type variable we have. And without string you can't do much work in C#, right? Especially if you are doing with any application, you need to work with string and different form of string, like string to integer, integer to string, or vice versa, different data types to string. And especially like if you are working, right, what's the whatever you send is basically in form of string, like your JSON. So object to string, string to object, it's very popular. Like it's more evident now than before, like how we work in a interchange manner. Even if you see the example, any example here, whatever comes from console input, it will be in form of string, and then you have to typecast it. So we'll be learning now more about what is typecasting, how we interchange data from, or how we view the data, how we transform the data from one type to another type. We have learned different type of data. Now we'll learn how we move the data from one form to another form, like one type to another data type. Okay. So to start with, now we have escape sequence. So before we learn about data transfer, we also understand within a string, if we want to put a special meaning. So first, yesterday we have on Friday what we have learned is string is denoted with double quotes. So whatever contains within 2 double quotes is termed as our string data, right? So basically double quotes here has a special meaning, right? Means basically you can say it is a part of your programming language, but double quotes in general is a character, like how single quotes is, or how any symbol what you see in the board, or what you don't see, everything is a part of string. Because if you can see it, it is a part of string. Somehow, if you are able to visualize it, especially I am talking character, not pictures, then it has to be a character, otherwise you cannot view it a character like string format. Now, but suppose what happens when we want to write double quotes in a string? It will terminate the moment we put, because double quotes is used starting of the string and termination of the string. The moment we put a double quotes in between the string, it will not consider as a part of string. Okay, it will consider that okay, this is a compiler instruction, so or say a programming language instruction, and here string will get terminated. So what we do is we create a termination sequence. What do you mean by termination? There we tell the character followed by this symbol. This slash symbol you see, right? Backward slash. The backward slash is a termination symbol. So when you see a backward slash, right, then the character followed by that will not have its normal meaning, right? It will have a special meaning. And this process is called escaping. So escaping the normal meaning and telling this character followed by this symbol has a special meaning. Okay? Now, first symbol is double quotes followed by slash. It means not a special meaning but a normal meaning of quotes. So it tells this is not the double quotes which we are using for terminating the string, whereas this is a normal double quotes as a character. So for example, I think so that example I have already showed that day, right? So this is the first one. Now second is slash n. See, at times when you are writing a string, for example, anyway we are here, so now, okay, now we are typing something, right? Harsh Patel. I don't like Harsh, so Harsh and Patel should not be at one place. Okay, so I'll put slash n and try to run this. Yeah, kind of BR. BR is in HTML. Now the same thing if you want to format a string, and like when you have a bigger string and how you want something to start, like when you are writing a letter and sending as a console, right? You will say dear sir, and then there should be a not space, there should be a new line, right? Then okay, it has come here. Let's see. Now I say hers gets separated from Patel or not. Now what he'll become? If hers gets separated from Patel, what he'll become? No. No. He'll become Tiwari, hers Tiwari. Atrip, sorry. Okay. Now you see? Do you see hers and Patel separated? Yes. So, got it? So, this is one. Similarly, you can see a tab. Instead of N, we'll put T. So, and I'll just, there was a space here. I'll remove the space. So everything is in one line, but when we execute it, there should be a tab. Now let me remove this breakpoint, because first of all my system is very slow. Okay. Now you see a space, whereas in coding there is no space. So this kind of, so this is taking basically spacing, a special meaning. Okay. Now this is tab. NBSP is only single space. This is a tab. When you hit a tab, right? So this is different formatting, right? Because space has a normal meaning. Why you want to give a space? So which T has here, N and T is a character, which doesn't have a special meaning. But when you followed it by a backward slash, it has got a special meaning. So if something is having special meaning, it will take a normal meaning. For example, your double quotes, which has special meaning in C#. Whereas if you want to put it into a string as a normal character, you put it a backward slash. N has a normal character meaning, but if you follow it, like precede it with backward slash, it becomes a new line. If you want to a horizontal tab, then you put T. Now suppose we are using backslash, right, for give something a special meaning. But in my string, I want to write backslash. For example, I want to write hers, no Patel. Okay. But now /k is not there. That's why you see a. So, but I wanted normal slash. So how it will happen? Because anything, with the slash has its special meaning within this thing. So I'll put double slash. Then you will see a single slash. Whom you will choose here? This is not it's a trick question. Hers or Kriti? You have your own problems. You don't want to adapt others' problem. Okay, so why it is taking so much time? Okay, next time everyone, because you have to wait so much, right? Don't let them, both the guys enter the room only. My system is slow because of these two guys. They have given me the worst PC available in BSc. Okay, what happened? It should run by now.
It is as similar as double quotes. Instead of first string, we can add any.
So it has like, if suppose double quote has a special meaning already, it will give a normal meaning. If something has like N doesn't have any meaning, but it gives a special meaning to that. So escaping the normal meaning or vice versa, that is done by escape character. So backslash is a escaping character. If it is found in a string, it will be treated differently. Okay.
If you want to write like this N, /N.
What?
If you want to write string /N.
Then you put two slash, no? Like what you have given, you put an N here. Okay. Then it will take it as like normal. I don't know why it is. Yeah. So character after the backslash matter. So after that it won't matter. क्या हर कृति का नाम से ही पूरा सब कुछ खराब हो गया.
मेरे नाम से ज्यादा दिया या उल्टा हो गया.
क्या गया था?
Let me check if now it works. बिल्ड है ना,
No good.
दोनों जगह इसमें छोटा वाला कुछ नहीं।
नहीं नीचे पॉपअप आएगा, do you want to पीछे do you want to stop debugging कुछ है?
स्लो हो गया सारा, हैवी है ना मेमोरी रैम। सही है, रैम बढ़ाने का भी कोई ऑप्शन नहीं है क्या? हाँ बढ़ाओ, सकने तो बढ़ा सकता है तो बढ़ा दो ना। Okay, it has come here. Now it is running. Okay, so here is, and then slash slash, let me say, it will add her slash 10. Ah, it is coming here. Okay, so can you see that? Now you see a normal slash, right? So after that you want to put n or something, it's up to you. You can do it, whatever it is. So that is done. So you understood the concept of escape character, right?
Can give Xcode also. Can give Xcode also.
Xcode.
To implement this one, the special character. That place what we are inserting now T, H, like that. We can give Xcode also to provide.
I am not able to understand Xcode.
Here only it's there.
Xcode बोले तो I am not. Wait. No, what Xcode you are telling? I am not. Oh, hex code. Okay. See, now you are not doing anything different. Basically, you can give a equivalent hexadecimal code. I was hex code. What is hex code? That's called hex. Okay. So, do you want to do that difficult task? It's better you put characters, right? There are more escape sequences, right? Few of them actually might need, hexadecimal code, but mostly you have written, like it's not only 4, there are a lot of others. But we usually don't use console application. For rest of the things, like we don't use any of this escape sequence. Only few might be useful, right? Like putting double quotes or few things within that. Or there is another way of escaping is putting @, but that is only for a specific one. For example, you are using a path. Can you see this? Right? You have to write something like this because there is a backward slash in the path. Now, if you have a bigger path where you'll go and keep inserting one extra, right? So what we do is we put a @. Can you see this? What this only is valid for, it's not for all the escape characters, it's only for backward slash. When all backward slash in the string is a normal character, instead of extending it with one more backward slash, you put a @ before the string, so that all backward slash inside the string will be considered as a normal meaning not with special meaning. So this is equivalent to this. You can see on the above, right? How path is written. C call it /, my app /. Whereas in actual path, if you see in any folders, it will have, like for example, I'll show you. See this. Oh. मेरे को लगता है आँख का इलाज कराना पड़ेगा, आप कुछ नहीं दिखता है। Okay, see on the above, like the path what you are seeing, right? If you click, you will see the slash path, backward slash. Usually path will be like this. Whereas if you have to put this thing in C sharp, we have to put double slash because of this special mailing to backward slash. To avoid this, we can put at the rate if you don't want to go and put back a double slash everywhere. Now, arrays will not be discussing now because there are more advanced data type concepts that we want to discuss, and array will be starting point for that. But one more clarification, array is not used nowadays. We do not use array. You would have seen any of your programmers, like especially your backend programmers, if you are going through the code, you will not see arrays used anywhere. Okay, it is kept as a backward compatibility, that if something is already implemented in array and you want to exactly take it, copy paste here, you can use arrays. But now more convenient things have come. This has very limited application now. Array used to be a big thing when C was there, but for C sharp, this is a very small thing, and there are a lot of alternatives and better alternatives available for arrays. You only use array when you need collection of. Anybody knows the definition of arrays? How to define arrays? Yes.
It's a collection of data put inside the square.
I asked definition. I didn't ask how it looks.
Series of values that have the same.
Anyone else? Yeah. Anyone? See, everybody is correct in a way. It's not like you are wrong. But when it comes to definition, right, it should be in a most decorated way, right? How a book defines it. So understanding wise, you guys are there. How array, what array is. But to define it, array is collection of homogeneous data type stored in a contiguous memory location. Okay. What do you mean by homogeneous data types? Yes, same data type. So you cannot have collection of int and float at once. Either it will be integer, float, string, character, any one data type. Second is, what do you mean by contiguous memory location? It's not continuous. That's it. Continuous is different. Contiguous is different.
Without space, continuously.
Yeah. See, can you tell me one example of continuous?
It uses the location in a order.
Like continuous means like after one what will come?
2.
After 2?
3.
What is it is? It is continuous. There is a continuity. What is contiguous is there is no direct continuity, but there is a definite formula for that. For example, there is a array of integer. Now integer is how much byte? Right. So if first array element is stored at 0, 0, 0, where the next will be stored? 0, 0, 32, right? Because first 32 is taken by 0 to 31 is taken by first block. You know where second block. So when we say array of 0, you have to start with the address. That means you say array name is ABC. So address ABC is what? A label, right? This label belongs to address something. It will start from there. Where the first element will start. You know the data type. You know how many bytes it takes. Just add it. You are getting it? So it is very simple. So it is not continuous, but it is, adjacent. Like you know where the next iteration is coming. So that's why traversing array is very easy. We will not go in details of array. There is something called traversing, means navigating. Array you can directly access the exact element. How you achieve it? It's very simple. You say you want array of 5, fifth element. You know what is the address starting. What is the difference between, like distance, what is the storage size of 1? Multiply it in 4, right? Add in the base address, you will get the location of fifth. So you don't have to go one by one, right? So that is the advantage of array. There are more things to discuss on this. I just given a brief. We will go through all those things little later. So I think so you have a basic understanding of what array is. Similarly, analysts definitely will not discuss anything about, because we are going to discuss all those things in details. Okay? Now, enumeration, right? What do you mean by enumeration? Anyone? What do you mean by enumeration? Okay, what do you mean by digitization? This is simpler, right? Digitization. Meaning of digitization.
Make everything into digital.
Correct. Converting a form into a digital form is digitization. The process of digitizing is called digitization. What is enumeration? Converting something into numbers is called enumeration. So process of converting something into number is called enumeration. Now, best example of enumeration, can somebody tell me which happened to you in your earlier academic period? Anyone? Anybody got into this kind of scenario where instead of called by your name, class teacher just called the roll number and the person used to present, yes, present sir, instead of calling the name, 31, present sir, right? Now, you are not Hemant or you are not Madhura, you are not, what's that, sorry. Okay, so when I say roll number 20, you know, you are 20, right? So Srivatsa is just converted into a number, right? So this kind of process where you have given a number to something instead of, like you have somebody evaluating someone with respect to numbers, then this process is called enumeration, right? Giving process of converting something into numbers. Okay, so we'll see example. Now, usually with this kind of process we use to create a user defined data type. Okay, so basically this is good for Sayyad and Nagesh, yes, Nago. Okay. Now, for enumeration, enumerated data types, okay, and now you got to know what is enumeration, what do you mean by enumerated, right? Enumerated means something converted to number is enumerated, right? Like enumeration is a process where enumerated is the actual application of that, right? So basically enumerated data types are data types where everything is converted into equivalent numbers, right? Now, and the keyword for this type of data type, and this is basically used for user defined data types. When you want to create a data type which is of your willingness, for that we use enumerated, enum. Okay, and the keyword for this is enum. Okay, so okay, let me move this. Okay, sorry, yeah, it's already there. So enum, then we say user type. Now this is not a data type. User type is not a data type. We are only writing that there is a new data type now. It is called user type. And one big difference you start noticing now. So till now whatever data types you have seen is starting with small character. Have you noticed that? And I have already told C# is a case sensitive. Now purposefully we don't write anything small when you are creating a user defined data types. And when you see something in dark blue and starting with small character, it means it is a primitive data types, or it comes directly with the system, it is not user implemented. So anything which is developed on top will have a uppercase, starting with uppercase and in with the light blue. I can show you the example here. Wait, my cursor is here. You see int or string, okay, or you see here using, okay. Now for example, I am displaying this thing. Enum itself is a primitive data type. Now admin, then you have user, and then okay, now you will say user type. Now you can use this thing as a data type. Okay, now this is a variable, and then if we are to assign, then we will say the original data type dot admin. So now there is a variable user type, small user type. You can see this is a variable, and you can say what is the type of this variable. You can see in the right side. This is of type user type, right? This is not enum now, right? And this value, this is having a value admin. Okay. Can you read out what is the error given? It is a red line. Equals is there, right? क्या बोल रहा? Okay, हाँ. So basically we cannot do all those things without putting everything into a namespace, because okay, but we have not done the class concept and all. Anyway, we have to just limit ourselves here. So don't worry about this. Okay, when we discuss namespaces in the next class, you will get to know what is this error and why we use namespaces and all. But as of now, you understood enum can be used as a custom data type. Okay, especially where now, because till now you didn't get any connect. I told converting everything into number, and here we are not using number anywhere, right? See this. Okay, so let's go back. No, see how you don't have to worry about what is here. How it works is like that, and then you'll also see the example how this is equivalent to a number. Can you see the cursor? It is there. टॉप, हाँ दिखा तो इसको भी बड़ा करना पड़ेगा, कुछ नहीं दिखता है मुझे. Okay, now you see example here. Now we'll go down, we'll see more example, it will be more. Is it done now? See now, you see the user types will have already a default value. You can give a specific explicit values also. Like let me come like okay. Now like how we have defined. Now if you don't give any number to this, now 0, 1 and 2. But I can tell no, instead of 0, 1, 2, 3, now this will have numbers 1, 2, 3, sorry, 0, 1, 2, it will have, it should have 1, 2, 3. Now these numbers will have differently. And can you see, I probably see this. This admin, it will contain 1 basically. Okay?
We can use those numbers, right?
It is enumeration. If you don't give, it will automatically do it. But we can explicitly also give, like sometimes when you have error code, right? But To display, I don't want to use it explicitly. Like for example, there is a 443. Here I will say, but 443, sorry, not 443, 404. 404 is used, page not found. But instead of that, what we will do is we will create a enum type called not page not found, and then we assign the number error code 443. So both are same, but for my interpretation, now I am not dealing with 443, I am dealing with a user defined type of page not found. Is it clear? And we don't use it that much. Some of the coding is still using enum, but enum is almost extinct. Almost, because there are more better ways to handle things. But Kiran likes it, so I don't know, for some reason, a lot of his coding has enum. So do not forget that it's not that obsolete. It depends upon, if I am writing code, I will mostly not use enum. But it depends, like who has used it, who can exploit the features, right, better than me in terms of a particular data type, right. Sometimes people, I don't like using sort, or some people they view the data type carefully and then make a choice to use it. Sometimes some people like struct. A lot of people don't use it. But there is a distinct difference between class and struct. Class can do all those things what struct is doing, right? But struct has certain less feature, but at the same time less memory footprint. When you are using some models where you don't have methods, you can use struct instead of class, which will give you more throughput. But people don't do it. Sometimes people purposefully do it to get more performance, right? So it depends on developer to developer. You should see best practice. You should know both pros and cons, and then use your brain to, if suppose in future there might be some extension coming for that. Then if it is struct, because struct you can't put so much functionality like method and all you cannot put, right? So it depends. What is your use case and what is your future plans with that? And in this scenario, you will be taking a informed decision on like which one to use. But best thing is you should know exactly what is. So enum is definitely it was a very good thing in C, not that good in C sir, just like arrays, right? So it had a massive use case in that, because there were no options, right? If your data don't match to existing one, you have to either go for structure or you have to go for this one enum. But now you have a lot of options in terms of when object oriented programming came in picture. So we have got massive options to represent the data. So now people, developer to developer, depends who uses this. Somebody don't use it. Okay, now this is done. Now we are going to another meaningful data type, operation. Because now you have understood variables, right? Now variables are basically your live version of, or your, a live data, right? Data type is just a, it is something like pen and a cello pen. What is the difference between pen and cello pen? Pen is a category. Okay, this is a pen. That means it belongs to a category. Category is not a live object. When I say cello pen, that means this belongs to a brand cello. It is a live version of what we used to define in paper. So when we were talking about data type, we were talking about how data can be classified. But when you get a variable, it means it is a live version. Now you have a real object. Now nothing is real in computer thing, but in terms like you have something which you can quantify, right? Whereas data type is just a hypothesis or a classification, where we determine if the data is having these properties, it will be classified as this particular data type. But when we say a variable of type int, it means that it is a live object, right? Now, when you have variables, next big thing is to manipulate that. As I told, programming is 80% data manipulation, leaving other aspect of programming. Writing program is 80% data manipulation, 20% logical operations and loops. That's it, nothing else. If you know these two things properly, rest all things will fall in place. And data manipulation is obviously very easy because we have very few things to do, right? First is your basic arithmetic operations, addition, subtraction, division, multiplication. Now, division have two different ways of doing it, slash and modulus, right? Like modulus, you say the divide sign, you see two, this thing, and you have slash. Now, one is that you will get a floating point, right? You will also get, now floating point, what you see 2.5, right? It's not exactly true. I'll show you how. And then we'll discuss about how this works. I'll delete this because with this it will always give error. So now we have, first one is what? Int, error code hai kya? So this is A, int B, int C. Int A equal to 5 or say 3, because then it will become interesting. Now C equals B divided by A, and then I'll just see all basic arithmetic operations everybody should be able to answer, and we are displaying C. What should be the result?
1.
10 divided by 3, how it will be 1?
Remainder is 1. Remainder.
So your answer is 1. Anyone else? Tell me, anyone else? Everybody has to tell the answer. 3.33. Okay. Madhura? हाँ? सब चेंज करते हैं. What?
3.333.
Yes. Sunil? No idea. Basic division. 3.33. Okay. Now, first let me run it and then गाली बात में देता हूँ. कितना आंसर? Now,
इसमें डेसिमल नहीं लिखा है.
now use your basic intellect. When you are doing operation and storing into a, C is an integer, right? It cannot have a floating point number. ठीक है? Basically it should give an error. Right? Correct? नहीं. Because you have to understand the function of these two. This is basically, this will tell you quotient. Okay? And this will tell you remainder. Now what is quotient and remainder? I don't have to tell you, I think so. If I ask, I know everybody will get embarrassed, so I will not ask. Okay? Probably you might not have proper understanding of that also, but at least, I think so you guys can definitely do basics, right? See, why I tell this is, one is quotient, one is remainder, right? When you divide it 3 times, right, you cannot further divide it back, right? And then you get 3. But why you get 3.5 if I modify the code? Sorry, 3.33. Modify the code and make this. Okay? And I run this. We'll get that. What you're telling. Right? Float किया है ना? This is going 3. दोनों को ये करना पड़ेगा. I have to convert everything. There should be one floating point number. Okay. Let me convert these 2 also. Okay. Okay, see the answer, right? No. Because why you are getting this? Because there is no remainder. It's not about you are getting 3.33, because when it is a floating point number, it is able to divide it. So still your quotient is this. It is not a question of whether there is a remainder or not. If it is a floating point number, there is no remainder, right? But when it is a fixed point number, right, it will be there because it will never get divided by this. So, but it is only taking till so many floating point numbers, and then but if you check for remainder, you will get it.
If you give decimal also, result will be same.
Huh?
If you give decimal also instead of
All are that only, floating point, right? If it is integer, you will get this thing, right? So, but if you want to check the remainder, right, then you have to use this symbol. I was just trying to show the difference, quotient and remainder, okay? See here, it will show you 1. Because we are purposefully checking for remainder. When you check for remainder, even though it is both are floating point numbers, it will give you 1 here. Okay, but if you have 2 floating point numbers, you will try to divide it as far as possible. So your quotient will come in floating point because it can take floating point also. Okay, so that is the difference. And sometimes floating point numbers like 3.5 and all, if it is completely divisible, you will feel. But if you check for remainder, again you will get the remainder, right? So you understood 2 different things for division, right? And then there is a divide by 0. You should not be doing that because that will throw an exception. We are not covering that because when we will cover all those things when we are discussing exceptions. Can you see where is the cursor? It is there?
yes, it is at the
Okay, ठीक है. Now, so basically now what and different kind of operations we can do. They are all BODMAS rules, everybody knows, right? It is kept going on from initial days of programming, it follows the same BODMAS rule. Now, what is the result of first one and second one? Without seeing the output. Or with logic, if you can explain me. The number, there are 2 addition and multiplication given, right? Okay, No, basically it does the multiplication, but with what? When you give a bracket, it means that is 1, right? So it will first complete the expression or evaluate the expression within the bracket and then do any of the operation. If you would have given a bracket the right hand side also, then it will evaluate both the expression and then do the final multiplication. So you have to understand this, and the first one there is no bifurcation. So first it will get multiplication done, okay, then division, jo Bodmas rule, whatever it is, it will follow that. But before that, you have to process the items in the bracket. If the expression is unknown, first that will be known. So 4 plus 2 is expression. Don't think that way that Bodmas rule says first do multiplication. But multiplication with whom? What? Because this side is not determined with what you have to multiply. So first solve the expression, that is 4 plus 2, and then complete the multiplication. So don't get confused on that. So first, if there is any expression, right, that has to be evaluated first, and then you will start multiplying and dividing, and in the same this thing you will go. So here the first one, you will not add 4 and 2 because multiplication has to be done first. So it will become 6 and then you will add with 4. But in the second case, for to multiply, there is an expression in the left hand side that needs to be reduced first. So 2 plus 4 is 6, and then now the number is 6, and then you multiply with 3. Clear? I don't think so these things needs too much of explanation. Okay. Now there are few more things like addition in string, right? So when you write a plus symbol is for addition. So this almost follows the same thing: star for multiplication, slash for division, percentage for remainder, and plus for adding. But when there are two strings, adding means joining the two strings. That is called concatenation. Okay. So basically when you add two string, it basically doesn't do a normal addition. Addition in string means concatenate, joining two strings. Okay. So do not get confused that I had 3 and 4 in string and added, it should be 34, not 7, right? You should always hear, because both are string. So it will get joined. So if 3 is before, 4 is later, it will be 34, it is ulta, then it will be 43. Whereas if both are integer, result will be same. So do not get confused between adding in string, because there is no separate symbol. Right? A lot of programming language has a different ways of concatenating. Right? Somewhere dot is used, somewhere something else is used. Here we have used the same addition symbol. Sometimes what happens, we add some value into A and store it back into the same variable. So you add something with the same variable and total result is stored in the same variable. For example, now I had 50,000 rupees in my bank account and I have added 10,000 more. So what will be resulted if I am writing in coding? What I will do is, first, that was my total deposit, there was a variable, I will add total deposit plus 20,000 and store it back into total deposit, because my total deposit should be updated now. Just 5 minutes I will complete and come. Okay. This kind of operation, now you will write total variable, total deposit equal to total deposit plus 10,000. You can also do in this thing, and this is there from days of C, that is plus equal to. Plus equal to means the same variable, add this value with the variable mentioned in your left hand side. Okay. So that is called plus equal to. You can also do multiply equal to, subtract equal to, divide equal to. This is available for all math operations, and tomorrow we will go through advanced maths and the other concepts. Thank you everyone.